Welcome, guys. It's the fourth lecture on the paleontological evidences supporting the evolution. In the last lecture, that's the third lecture on the paleontological evidences, we were discussing about the missing links, and we have discussed two missing links, that is the Semuria and the Thermomorphos, and we were on the third type of the missing link, that's the toothed birds. So toothed birds is another type of the missing link. The modern birds you study, the modern birds are basically, they are toothless birds. The modern birds, which we call as neo-ornithes, they are toothless birds. But we are talking about toothed birds as missing link, and these are fossil toothed birds. Fossil toothed birds. The best example we can take over here to make it understand is a fossil bird which we call as Archaeopteryx. It is Archaeopteryx lithographica. This is the famous example of the fossil toothed bird, which is also a missing link, and it is also known as the lizard bird. It's also known as the lizard bird. It's known as lizard bird. So this lizard bird, or the Archaeopteryx lithographica, it acts as a missing link between two groups of organisms, that is the reptiles and the another category of animals is the birds. So the Archaeopteryx lithographica, also known as lizard bird, it acts as a missing link between reptiles and birds. So it shows some characters of reptiles and some characters of birds. For example, if we go into the reptilian characters of this animal, that's Archaeopteryx lithographica, are that it has uh, free caudal vertebra. It has free caudal vertebrae. The caudal vertebrae found in this animal, that's Archaeopteryx lithographica, were free. They were free caudal vertebrae, and this is a reptilian character. Furthermore, they had smaller cerebellum and larger cerebrum. This is also a character of these reptiles. They had quite smaller cerebrum. Sorry, they had a quite smaller cerebellum, whereas they had the larger cerebrum but smaller cerebellum. This is also one of the reptilian feature, and there are many other reptilian features in this animal, that's Archaeopteryx lithographica. You can find them in a separate lecture on my YouTube channel. The lecture is titled as the lizard bird Archaeopteryx lithographica. You can search that and you can study yourselves many other characters about that. So some even characters of this bird, this fossil bird or lizard bird, are that four limbs four limbs were modified into wings. It is a typical avian character. In aves, you see the forelimbs are modified into the wings, and the same was the case with this fossil bird, that's Archaeopteryx lithographica. So, and were many other characters of the birds in this very animal. So on one hand, we see the Archaeopteryx lithographica shows some characters of birds, and on the other hand, it shows some characters of reptiles. So what it suggests us? It suggests us that a possible way of evolution is that the birds have got the birds have got evolved from the reptiles. This is what Huxley has called that birds are glorified reptiles. So what does Huxley mean by this statement that birds are glorified reptiles, it simply means that birds in the ancient past have evolved from the reptiles. So this missing link makes us understand that the aves have basically evolved from the reptiles. Now the last type of the missing link which we will be discussing is the one related with the plants, that is the pteridosperms. Pteridosperms. You can also call them as cycadophylicales, or you can also call them as seed furnace. These are the fossil plants, and they are known as pteridosperms, cycadophylicales, or you can also call them as seed furnace. So their characters are in between those of the pteridophytes. Pteridophytes. Pteridophytes are also known as furnace. So some characters of these fossil plants resembled with those of the pteridophytes or furnace, and on the other hand, some other characters of these plants, that pteridosperms, resembled with spermatophytes. The spermatophytes includes two categories of plants, that is the angiosperms and the gymnosperms. Angiosperms and gymnosperms. So both these categories, that's angiosperms and gymnosperms, are included into the spermatophytes, and these are pteridophytes are furnace. And this category of fossil plants, they are not presently found, they are fossil plants. They show some characters of the furnace or the pteridophytes and some characters of those of the spermatophytes. That is why we call them as a missing link between the pteridophytes and the spermatophytes. This is all about the missing links, and with this we complete all about the paleontological evidences in favor of evolution.